Hello, it's Steele here from the private client team at Harper Macleod. I can't believe we're nearly in November. Who would have thunk it back in March that we'd be here now? If you're anything like me, since you've been spending more time at home, you'll have probably organised every cupboard and drawer in your house and you're feeling quite satisfied. And now you're thinking, what other things can I do to organise my life well? I've got a few life admin tips for you today around things that you can do to take control of your legal life admin, and hopefully there'll be some other things you can tick off your list. So 2020's been pretty grim, but I just think you'll go into 2021 feeling very organised indeed. So the things that I'm going to talk about today, and this is in the order that you would use them in your lifetime, we've got your power of attorney. Your power of attorney is a document that you prepare via your solicitor, and it gives power to other people, so people you appoint, to act on your behalf in relation to your welfare and your finances when you're unable to. So it's used during your lifetime. The next thing is your living will. Your living will is an expression of your wishes around medical treatment. If you're unable to communicate to your medical team, so your doctors, because of ill health or injury, and your family. So that's what your living will is for. And then we've got your will, which comes into effect after you die, and your will sets out who you want to get your bits and pieces and who you want to deal with your estate, your executors. So hopefully I'm going to try and see if I can make these things a bit less scary and bust a few myths around them that have come up again and again with clients. Okay, so powers of attorney. Now, when you say power of attorney, you think to yourself, oh, that's what they appoint, that's what they say in America when they're appointing lawyers in their court cases and things like that. So when I'm talking about attorney, I mean your power of attorney, and that can be anybody. So your mum, your dad, your brother, your sister, your friends, your family, somebody that you trust and that you know will carry out your wishes in the way that you would want them to. So the power of attorney is also sometimes a scary thing for people to consider appointing, because they think, well, I'm 37, I don't want people in about all my stuff. But the thing is, the power of attorney doesn't actually come into effect until you've lost capacity or you've had an illness or injury, which means that you can't communicate and make decisions on your own behalf in relation to your finances or your welfare. So it's only at that point will your power of attorney kick in, and the attorneys can step up and make decisions that you would make for yourself. Although, say with the financial side of the powers of attorney, if you just can't be bothered anymore, so say you're 90 and you don't want to go to the bank anymore, your attorney, if you ask them to, can step up and take over that responsibility for you. So it's striking a balance about what you want to be able to do yourself and what you'd like your attorneys to give you a hand with. But the key thing is, it doesn't kick in until you've lost capacity and you're unable to make those decisions. The final thing to say about powers of attorney is that you really have to make them now whilst you still understand the nature and the extent of the document. Quite often clients will come and say to us, oh Julie, my mum is got Alzheimer's, or she's getting quite wandered and forgetful. I need to step up and make decisions for her. Can you help us do a power of attorney? So we then have to speak to the mum, and at that point it's clear that she doesn't understand the nature and extent of the power of attorney that she's being asked to, or she's asking us to prepare on her behalf. And at that point, unfortunately, it's too late. So when there's no power of attorney, there's nobody to make decisions for you. So your family or the social work department or whoever's looking after you would have to get a guardianship order from the court. So that's really an invasive process. It's really long and it's quite expensive. So the key thing is, do your power of attorney early whilst you still can, and get it done and ticked off the list. Okay, the next thing to talk about is your living will. Now, like your power of attorney, your living will is for when you're still alive. So it's different from a will. So even if you've done a will, that's not the same thing as a living will. A living will is a document which is an expression of your wish around medical treatment if you're unable to communicate to your family and your doctors your views around that due to illness. It's actually a really good thing to have in place because it kind of takes the pressure off your family, because you know they'll be probably quite stressed out if you're unable to communicate. But I've done a more detailed video on living wills, and that's on YouTube and harpermacleod.co.uk, so check that out if you want to have another think about a living will. And the final thing to think about is your will. Now, lots of people don't like to do this because they think it tempts fate to do a will, or it's jinxing themselves, but you know, it actually saves a lot of hassle. If you don't have a will, you're classed as being intestate. And intestate means that you don't have a will, and your estate will be divided in terms of the law of intestacy. Now, you might think, actually, that's fine, it'll just go to my husband or my wife or my children, and that might be ultimately what happens. But to get it to that point, there's legal steps required to be gone through to deal with your estate and transfer those assets that are in your name into the name of your beneficiaries. Now, when there's no will, the person entitled to be the executor has to petition the court to be appointed as executor, and then in some circumstances a bondification, which is an insurance policy, is required to deal with before the estate can be progressed. Now, when you have a will, those steps are skipped. So it just makes the process much smoother, and you can be sure that you've set out your wishes about who you want to deal with the estate and who you want to receive your stuff, and it's not left up to the rules that have been set out by the law lords and the government. Okay, so that's us gone over your power of attorney, your living will and your will. I hope the video has helped you maybe understand the differences between these documents and why they're important to you, so that you can maybe think about getting them ticked off that to-do list. If you want to get in touch with me or any of my colleagues in the private client team at Harper Macleod, you can reach us at harpermacleod.co.uk. Thanks very much.